Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Coin Lady channel. We return with the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. We'll be discussing Ripple and XRP today, along with the rest of the cryptocurrency and financial markets. And before we get too far into this video, I do want to give a serious warning to everyone who owns XRP. You can read my thoughts on the matter in the following tab. And I really just want to restate a lot of what I've already said about what happens in this market and with XRP and the possibilities and such like. In a moment, we'll discuss that further. But first, I'd want to share some thoughts on a recent item that appeared on the 14th. The Fed is now clearly bankrupt. We have been discussing issues with the Fed for some time now, particularly in regards to the US economy, as the dollar's supremacy begins to wane outside the US and its reserve status is called into doubt. Right. But if we consider recent events, we see that the Fed is, in fact, a bankrupt central bank. Not in the sense of a private bank's intellectual prowess, either. As a safety net against losses, the Fed keeps a certain amount of capital on hand. If losses accumulate to the point where capital is no longer sufficient to cover them, the Fed is said to be insolvent. Its debts to creditors will outweigh the value of its assets. The Federal Reserve currently owes the Treasury about $41 billion, which is more than the institution is worth. By any reasonable measure, the Fed is bankrupt. It's fascinating to witness this in action. The debt ceiling will most likely be increased, I think. In my opinion, we will resume printing. Since significant inflation already exists, I anticipate that we will soon enter a period of hyperinflation as well. You might see it if you went to the grocery store. You can see it in the utility bills you pay and the rent you pay. Everything points to the fact that inflation is continuing on the rise. The sound is deafening. The Fed's desire to ignore the issue and claim that inflation is declining is frustrating because the Consumer Price Index (CPI) data rarely includes basic living expenses such as food and energy. But this should serve as a significant caution to anyone involved with XRP or the XRP community. It was Jimmy Vallely. The topic of Vigil Capital has been discussed here before. We have discussed Jimmy Vallely directly. Believe me, I've been there, I've imbibed the Kool-Aid before. The Federal Reserve buyout has been discussed. I've discussed the potential for XRP use by the Fed. I'm not just going to sit here and delete outdated content and assure you that people will keep buying even if it's not updated. I was wrong, you hear me out. Honestly, I was dazzled by the potential of XRP as a liquidity tool and other applications. I enjoy chatting about what might happen and making educated guesses, but this has gone on for far too long. Listen, this has been disproved numerous times in the past year. There was a lot of back and forth when we were discussing it. We did talk about it. It was a topic of discussion amongst us. Numerous obvious clues point to it. A lot of hard work and study went into it. We now know, however, that this is even less likely than it was before. For starters, it's illogical. And two, when we look at the people who are pushing this, people like Jimmy Vallely and Vigil Capital, we see that it's all about money, and not our money, his money. The Federal Reserve's inability to carry out the XRP buyback has been confirmed. The SEC and the IRS need to stop fighting and start working together. The king may now enter. Happy times, long live XRP. To God be the glory. And again, as we look at XRP, we see this notion that, oh well, XRP will be the liquidity source for the Fed, and the Fed will realize, listen, we need to stop promoting these absurd, I would say, speculative narratives surrounding XRP right now. At the moment, XRP is the most well-known cryptocurrency in the world. The power and potential behind it are obvious to everyone, and now we're simply waiting for something major to happen. Do I think that this major event will occur in the future? Yes, 100%. That, at least, is how I expect the story to conclude. When that happens, things will finally start to get rolling. But the notion that the Federal Reserve will purchase back XRP or use XRP as a source of funding is absurd. And I think everyone needs to wake up and smell the flowers about the fact that the Fed is not interested in XRP. The Fed has no plans to switch to XRP. Do you know why they're so eager to launch the FedNo service? The FedNo service is close to being released. Their end goal is to hasten the collapse of the banking system and usher in a digital currency in the United States. That was always the plan from the beginning. Why? Because it's a defense mechanism against cryptocurrencies and stablecoins, and because it lets the status quo power structure maintain its stranglehold on the economy. This is due to the fact that they have the ability to create an unlimited supply of currency. There is an endless supply of money at the Federal Reserve, as evidenced by this statement from Johnny Dean, who was not exaggerating. In order to keep the banking system solvent, we will do whatever is necessary. This is from the Federal Reserve's Kashkari in the year 2020, who claims that the central bank has a limitless supply of cash. Take this in, listen carefully. If you're going to get in your car and withdraw $3,000 from an ATM, this is for you. Oh, really? There's no reason to. Your bank and ATM are safe to use. There is a limitless supply of currency available from the Federal Reserve, and there is sufficient cash in the financial system. We shall take all necessary measures to guarantee a sufficient amount of funds in banks. And yeah, like this is the ludicrous assertions that we hear from the Fed, that there's a limitless quantity of currency because, guess what? To succeed on a debt-based society, as we have done, it is necessary to create a large quantity of debt. We do this by selling or, more accurately, lending the debt to other countries. There is interest added to it. I guess so. If you could print more money, why wouldn't you? You know, there's a limitless amount of money, so why wouldn't you say that? Because we've always just printed more money whenever we needed it. Adding to our mounting debt. Paying astronomical interest after having borrowed money from others or sold debt. And who is shelling out the cash? You, me, and every other significant taxpayer in the United States. The issue lies here. As of late, the Federal Reserve is, in my opinion, completely broke. I think they've been lying to us since at least the 16th of March. I warned you all that this was a load of hogwash. We observe that Yellen, Treasury Secretary, assures Congress that the banking system is safe. The testimony before the Senate is meant to ease the concerns of buyers and investors. All they care about is whether or not you are still actively investing, spending, and storing your wealth in a bank. As a matter of fact, that is what we find in the basement. I can assure the committee that the financial stability of the United States is secure and that depositors' money will be safe. I love it when they add that the FDIC will protect them too, because let's face it, most people in the United States don't have $250,000 sitting in the bank. It's okay, though. My recent film discussing the biggest financial disaster in history is not something you need to recall. No, the FDIC can't protect every single depositor. They don't care if you have $10, $100, $1,000, or $100,000, they'll take it all and run. Also on this side of the pond, on March 19 the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve issued a joint statement. Here on the ground, we applaud the measures announced by the Swiss government today to ensure financial security. The US financial system is robust, with healthy capital and liquidity levels among its banks. We have been in constant touch with our foreign partners to encourage their adoption of ideas like the one that the United States financial system and economy are robust and secure, and that all liquidity is abundant. Such as though it were all a load of hogwash. It's designed to drum into your heads the message that you don't have to take any cash out of the bank at any time. I don't mind. There is no need to worry. There has been no damage. Totally nonsensical. Yes, Joe Carlos, we can see you over there. It's incredible that Buffett dumped bank stocks he'd owned for decades. There is a lack of focus on this issue. And yes, that actually occurred. Many will now incorrectly assume that he first offered them for sale in the year 2020. But these are more like actual purchases from just recently. There was some coverage of this on CNBC not so long ago. Now, clearly, I'm not footing the bill, but we can see that Buffett explains why he dumped all but one of his bank investments. Here, however, Warren Buffett criticizes financial institutions for covering up their losses and admits that he has sold some bank stock because of warning signs. It's conceivable that our initial conversation will be one of the warning signs. Assuming, that is, that you have seen the film The Big Short. Amazing, award-winning film. If you haven't seen it yet, you should see that film. One of the most important factors that contributed to 2008, however, was kept out of the public eye until recently, after SVB. What was it, do you think? Credit default swaps, or CDS, was the culprit. Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, and many other major banks are the first targets of this cover-up. We knew we had to pay attention to such signals before we would take the situation seriously. That one is going to put a lot of pressure on the financial system. The failure of more banks seems inevitable at this point. And I really think that we aren't in the clear yet. I think the decline in the value of banks will continue, and Warren Buffett's criticism of the sector and subsequent stock sales are more red flags. Listen up. Is he spot on every time? No, but based on what I've observed in the banking sector recently, I think he's behaving in good faith, both to himself and the industry. I believe that this is an excellent opportunity to not only to risk outside of banks, but also to get our money outside of banks, as we continue to see banks disguising their losses, hiding certain items like CD. And the way to do this is to buy gold and silver and invest in them, as well as cryptocurrency. Many people probably think I'm nuts for suggesting them acquire cryptocurrency. Just take a look at what this year has brought us so far. Take a look at the results after we witnessed the SVB collapse. Compare the performance of SVB stock and other banking stocks to Bitcoin's performance. That's why I'm spreading my investments around, both in and out of the cryptocurrency market. But domestically as well, banks are seeing the largest annualized decline in deposits in history. The fact that we've reached this point in history seems crazy to me, and by the way, look at where we were in 2008 compared to where we are now. It's insane to act like way. Also, the year 2020 might be in sight. Seemed like this was the primary location for depositing funds. This explains why things like the value of the US dollar skyrocketed during the time. The result was the eventual demise of the US currency, so sure, that did happen. About a week after we noticed a significant increase in deposits, it happened. This is also around the time that the value of cryptocurrency begins to increase at an exponential rate. However, this is really insane in general. And here at home, led by the Federal Reserve, central banks are once again relaxing policy. All currencies are currently in a downward spiral. Their sole intent is to use CBDCs to gain total dominance over the world. And yes, I have mentioned this before. Many people hold the view that this is only a wild conspiracy idea. Many people, however, conclude that the Fed is insolvent in light of recent events and general perceptions about the organization. This suggests that they're planning to implement cryptocurrency, use cryptocurrency, source XRP, source this, and source that. No, really, they aren't trying to accomplish that. Their ultimate aim does not involve XRP. Their ultimate goal does not involve Bitcoin. It has nothing to do with Ethereum. It's because they want to use a digital currency not backed by the US government. How come? Because, as I stated at the outset of the video, it serves as a rallying cry against cryptocurrency and may pave the way for them to avoid cryptocurrency and stablecoins altogether. That's why I mentioned it again in yesterday's video. As I mentioned before, the Federal Reserve would love to create a centralized digital currency in the United States CBDC, since doing so would allow them to totally sidestep the need to accept and utilize crypto assets. Many may now wonder whether they will lose all of their money since central banks aren't using crypto or adopting it. In a word, no. Listen, CBDCs can benefit from a great many of these tokens. A CBDC-like system requires a large number of these tokens. XRP does have a fantastic practical use. I won't sit here and argue that XRP is pointless just because I don't like it. In contrast, XRP utility as a transitional currency is ideal. That Ripple is setting up XRP to do is connect CBDCs. As I've already stated, I think CBDCs will happen sooner or later. In my opinion, central bankers will always come out on top in the end. As CBDCs begin to emerge, we must ask, okay, but what technologies will enable this to happen? What is absolutely required to operate the system, and what will supplement it? When considering CBDCs and a bridge currency standard, it's important to find one that supports quick settlement. In addition, we'll state 3-4 seconds at a fraction of a penny for vast sums of money and value, as well as interoperability and security. That's because it's all interconnected. And the longest-lived source of that XRP is. With that stated, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you like my video, please hit that like button and subscribe my channel. See you later, bye.